Hello everybody and welcome back to the Fantasy Football Fix YouTube channel. My name is FPL Phillips and it's time for the Game Week 4 episode of Eddie versus the Algorithm. And if you're new to the series, this is a series here on the channel where we take the computer-generated AI team for each game week of the season and put it up against my own drafted free hit team and see which can score the most points over the course of the season. A point for whoever scores the most points in each game week, if that makes sense. So there's 38 points up for grabs, and over the course of this campaign, we're going to see what is better, a man or a machine at FPL. Before we get into having a look at what the computer team is cooking up for Game Week 4, let's have a little bit of a quick recap as to how things got on in Game Week 3. And for the algorithm, it was a rather respectable 56 points. In fact, a number that I saw a lot of managers actually end up on at the end of the game week. So probably would have been a pretty nice green arrow, depending on where the algorithm was, of course, sitting. But the main highlights of this side were the double Chelsea defence, both picking up clean sheets. No gusto for the algorithm 11, but still managed to pick up a nice healthy 12 points between them. If Chilwell had put that chance away, then it would have looked really tasty indeed in terms of points total. But like most people who have a decent knowledge of FPL, a lot of them at the moment have Chilwell in their sides. In midfield, we had Rashford and Saka picking up decent points, but overall nothing too special. Nick Jackson on 7 up front and Haaland on 8 points meant that it was an end total of 56. Flecken did really decent in goal despite not picking up a clean sheet as well. That was a rather freak goal that was conceded by Brentford. The Palace goal for Anderson that kind of went under Flecken. I'm not really sure how it ended up in the net, but it was a promising performance, but that doesn't get you any points in FPL. But 56 for the algorithm. Was I able to beat that? Well, the answer is yes. 74 points I scored with Luke Shaw's injury actually playing into my hands. Gusto coming off the bench for him with his massive 14 points total. And overall, it was just a really solid performance. The only big player that I missed out on, I suppose, was Raheem Sterling, who I chose not to go for. Edison in goal, conceding rather late on against Sheffield United, I'm not too fussed about. Estupinian was probably the only one who was a real disappointment. Chilwell and Gusto combined in defence, picking me up 20 points was magnificent. We've got Bruno Fernandes and Rashford in midfield, so I managed to go with Bruno, which the algorithm decided against. Foden off the bench as well for that assist late on was probably a bit more of a lucky one, but the illness itself that ruled him out and meant that he wasn't starting the game was rather unlucky in itself. Nketiah was another one with a return off the bench. The late news of Jesus being back, and well, it wasn't actually him who started the game, of course, it was Trossard, but either way, Nketiah off the bench to grab a return was very nice, and then I, of course, had Haaland captain and Nick Jackson, same as the algorithm, but overall, nearly a 20-point difference between myself and the algorithm, a rather healthy victory, meant that it is now 3-0 to me after the first 3 game weeks. So the algorithm has really got its work cut out to do. Let's see how its team is shaping up ahead of game week 4 and see if it can come and claw its reputation back and make it 3-1 at the end of this game week. And so the part of the video that you're always waiting for, what is the computer-generated team looking like for this game week? Or maybe I should say that my team is the part of the video that you guys should be looking forward to based on the score so far this season. But again, it's a 3-5-2, and this week it's predicted 66 points for the computer. And the goalkeeper between his sticks is going to be Sam Johnston, who should be good for another game week, you would hope. But there is a major dilemma for owners of Johnston right now, which is Dean Henderson joining could eventually end up displacing Johnston as the first choice keeper. Or we could see a similar situation to the kind of thing we're seeing at Brighton right now, with keeper rotations, sharing minutes, things like that, which does look a bit of a worry longer term. But you'd hope that Johnston should be good for this game week, and Wolves at home is a very nice fixture. They've just lost Matheus Nunes to Manchester City as I'm recording this, so this is going to be a big loss to them as a side. They have racked up some relatively decent chances over the first 3 game weeks, however. They put in a pretty decent display at Old Trafford, but they are missing, some key players now, as said, with Matheus Nunes. They look decent without Neves, but I think Nunes will be a bigger loss. So I think overall, there's a nice chance of a clean sheet in there for the Palace guys. In defence then, we're going to see another Palace asset coming in with Anderson, who did pick up that goal in Game Week 3. He had some really nice chances in Game Week 1 as well that I saw, and overall is just a bonus points monster too. So I think if you are going for a Crystal Palace asset in defence, then he is probably the one to pick up right now, with Johnson's minutes uncertain. And yeah, he just looks really good and is predicted 4.7 points this game week, which is actually higher than Ben Chilwell's 4.5 as Chelsea take on Nottingham Forest at home. He's going to be the favourite of the back line. Still way ahead of Gusto in my books at least. I think that his underlying data is far more impressive than Gusto's. You can just tell from the average positions that Chilwell, Sterling and Jackson are basically the three to own from Chelsea, and I wouldn't want to be blocked off from that triple up by going elsewhere, like a Gusto or like a Sanchez in goal, for example. We've then finally got Henry against Bournemouth at home, another one alongside Johnson, who I own in my own personal side, so this has really given me some nice confirmation bias around my team this week. He's predicted 4.4 points. As mentioned, Brentford take on Bournemouth at home, and I think it's a really nice fixture for them. And they'll probably be sticking with the 4-back formation, which doesn't tend itself as much for Henry and Hickey on the other side, getting forward and getting involved in the attacks quite as much. But I do like him as an option. Him and Pinnock are definitely the two to target from Brentford. And I think they offer a really nice option this week in particular. But next week they have got Newcastle away. So that is something worth considering. If you're looking to bring in a Brentford defender, then make sure you've got the rotation plan sorted and covered for when they don't have some easier fixtures over the next few weeks. In midfield, we're going to see a midfield five of Mohamed Salah, which is an interesting one. Jared Bowen, Phil Foden, Bukayo Saka, and then Brian Mbeumo, of course, who comes in as the second Brentford asset alongside Henry for that nice fixture up against Bournemouth. But Mo Salah will be the main topic of debate here, I suppose. He's on his way to probably nearly approaching a price drop, given that his form's been a little bit underwhelming for his price tag. And also there are now rumours, of course, surrounding a move perhaps to the Saudi League. I don't think that that's going to happen for what it's worth, but I've been wrong before. I could be proven wrong here. Anything can happen very quickly in football. I've just seen Cole Palmer move to Chelsea in about the space of a day, so things can change very quickly. And it wouldn't shock me massively if somehow Liverpool do accept a 100 million offer or so and try to look to bring in a replacement for him. But I don't think that's going to happen as soon as this weekend. But I do think that the Aston Villa at home fixture is not an easy one at all, and Emery's side are going to be a tough feat for Liverpool this game week. We've then got Bowen, who's going up against a much less difficult side to take on, I suppose, in Luton. No disrespect to them, but they've got their first home game of the season. West Ham will be the ones travelling there. Hopefully the stadium is all up and running in time, which that's right now when I'm recording this. The news is all that it should be, and it's open and everything like that. So no worry about that or any more postponements for them. Bowen up against Luton is just a player you have to back in that fixture. It'd be between him and Ward-Prowse for me, really. But as a one-week punt, definitely looks like a nice option to go for and has racked up some very good numbers, especially in that game that we just saw last game week against Brighton. And then we've got Phil Foden and Bukayo Saka. So no room for anyone like a Maddison or a Sterling in this side, which I think is rather interesting. A lot of people looking to shift on Arsenal assets such as Martinelli or Odegaard, but hold on to Saka this game week. But I do think that not just Saka's individual appeal, but the appeal of the United fixture in general is actually a lot better than people make out. United are going to be without Luke Shaw on the left-hand side, which will play even more into Saka's hands. And that means that they've also got Varane as centre-back who's missing. So Lindelof's going to come in, who has proven himself very capable, but I still think it's a massively weakened United back line. And although they did look a little bit better at times without Mount last game week, I think that overall we saw Nottingham Forest taking advantage of them early on in the game. I could definitely see Arsenal doing the same at the Emirates. And I wouldn't be in too much of a rush to remove someone like a Martinelli or an Odegaard this game week if you can just hang tight. And I'd probably be thinking definitely twice as much about it if you're looking at doing one of those moves for a hit. And then finally, Phil Foden, who's maybe going to face some competition from that Núñez moves. It looks like it's more kind of competition or rotation for that Kovacic spot, given that, he is getting on a little bit, I suppose, and might not be able to play every minute of every competition. But either way, it's another kind of midfielder thrown into the mix at Manchester City. And I think Phil Foden is going to struggle a little bit for minutes here on out. But I still think that him and Alvarez are fantastic options. I don't think the Núñez move changes it that much. It's more Doku coming in that might affect things like that. But Foden, for what it's worth, I think should definitely start this game against Fulham at home as much as I can be as confident as I can with Pep Roulette ever looming on all the Manchester City assets, really. But yeah, I really like him for this game week, and it's 5.2 predicted points for him. And then finally, up front, we've got, of course, Erling Haaland, who takes the captain's armband, and then Wissa of Brentford. So it is a Brentford triple up for the game at home to Bournemouth. He's looked fantastic so far. The only thing that's swaying me away from him a little bit is that he does tend to be substituted around the 70-minute mark. Around that time in the game, he does tend to get substituted off. And Charlotte did look really good from Brentford as well. So I think that Vissa is a very, very nice option for this game week. I would question whether Jackson or Alvarez do provide slightly better long-term picks, or even an Ollie Watkins is one that I would actually like to own this week. And if you do own him for that Liverpool fixture, don't be put off by the red colour on the FPL website or anything. I do think that it's a very favourable fixture to back, especially with Van Dijk looking like he'll be suspended for that one. I can't see that red card being overturned anytime soon. In fact, I've seen rumours that he may even get a further match ban for how he managed himself around the referee, shall we say. And then finally, on the bench then, we'll have a look. Estepinian's down there. We've got Baldock, and we've also got Morris. Baldock is one that has been rumoured with a few moves to Greece. He's, of course, a Greek international. There have been some transfer rumours in the pipeline, so do keep an eye on that one if you are a Baldock owner. Not sure why you'd have Estepinian down there on the bench, but it's good to see, I suppose, for owners or people who are looking to start him this week, that he is predicted 4.1 points and enough to make it into this team for this week. Areola is the keeper of choice down there on the bench, and a Luton forward in Morris makes it in as well. So yeah, we'll move on and see how my team is looking different this week. And compared to the algorithm 66 points, my team is predicted 62 points. And I have got a few quite significant changes. I actually chose Anderson myself as well. I really like the look of him. But instead, I've gone with Udogie and Flecken as my two kind of players alongside Chilwell and Anderson. I really like Udogie as a pick. It surprises me that he's only predicted 2.8 points this week, but I've chosen to go with Flecken in goal to still kind of cover that Brentford defence, and he's put up some really good numbers so far, and overall has looked really impressive. I think a lot of people were put off by him in pre-season, and it does kind of show how we don't need to take too much notice of pre-season. Players can be misrepresented by the kinds of performances that they can put in before the season starts. Udogie's mainly in there, of course, for his attacking threat, and I do think that Burnley have looked overall underwhelming over the first couple of games, which is why I've chosen to double up and go with Maddison in midfield. I've then gone with Raheem Sterling as well, which has meant that Salah and also Bukayo Saka have made way, as painful as it was to do so. I do kind of have to back Manchester United a little bit, and I think Saka could do well, but overall, Sterling, when he gets in these purple patches, does look very good, and I'm hoping that he can do some damage against Nottingham Forest. And I think Maddison, Sterling, and Foden are a lot of the ones, or the three, I suppose, that people are weighing up this week as in who to bring in their midfield. And then finally up front, we've got Haaland, and then I've gone with Antonio as my second striker, who I think has looked in really, really good form. He's got that kind Luton fixture, obviously, so a double up on the West Ham attack. That's meant Wissa dropping down onto the bench. I've also got Vardiol and Gusto down there as well, who could present some more painful bench points. I think a lot of people had Gusto on their bench last week, and some of them might have got a bit lucky, I suppose, and had him substituted on, but others might have had some painful bench points. So sorry to bring up that trauma if it's still looming from being raw from the last game week. But yeah, let me know down below in the comments, whose team do you think is going to come out on top this week? Am I going to outscore the algorithm once again and make it 4-0 in the series? That would be probably the biggest gap that I've ever had ahead of the algorithm. To have that at the start of the season would be very nice. Or do you think the computer's going to pull one back and make it 3-1? Thank you very much for tuning in once again to the series. Make sure to leave a thumbs up on the video if you did enjoy. If you want to check out all the many team reveals of our elite managers and not just the AI algorithm, you can do so by following the links down below in the description. But I wish you a good rest of your day. I hope you have enjoyed the video, and I wish you all the best of luck for Game Week 4. Goodbye.